Hello and welcome to Far Hill Flowers. I'm Justine Scouller and I'm going to be doing a little video today to show how to make a casket spray for a funeral. Funeral flowers are massively important to everybody involved in the funeral, but there's something that sort of has this great sort of mystery about them, and there tends to be a really strong tendency to go with really sort of very formal funeral flowers, and I think it's because people don't really understand that they can do whatever they like for funeral flowers. It doesn't have to be formal. So I'm going to show you how I'm making a very informal, lovely, light flowing coffin topper that is completely natural. It's got no plastics or wires or anything in it. So I'm going to cut a few flowers to go into that, and then we'll see me put it together. So I'm getting a couple of white gladioli. They can be a bit big and clumpy if you're not careful, but these ones are a little bit smaller, and they do look pretty. And if you haven't got room to put the whole stem in, you can just break off the flowers and use them individually. And I've got a self-seeded Ammimagus here, which is really pretty, so I'm going to cut that and put that in as well. And then we'll get some dahlias. So we've got a nice mix of colours. I'm going for a sort of blue and white vibe in this arrangement. And so this is, oh gosh, I always forget, Irene, Dahlia Irene, I think, with the white with the mauve centre. And then I'll get some Gallagher, which is a really lovely floaty plant, goat's rue, really lovely. Right, so I've picked all the flowers and I picked some foliage earlier for this arrangement, and I also, my Blue Peter moment here, here's one I made earlier. So this is a base made up of willow sticks. I have very tall, slim willow that grows that I produce for this. It's tied up with twine to form a sort of, almost like a raft, and then on that is going to go a marrow. It's a courgette that's got a bit big for its boots, and it's perfect for this. That's going to sit in the middle. I'm going to attach it with twine and then put in the foliage. Right, so the courgette is now attached to the base, and that's nice and firm and solid. And so I'm now going to start inserting the foliage into the courgette. Now I have a bamboo stick, and I also have a little sort of bradawl thing in case the skin is a bit hard. With the pittosporum here it should be fine because that's a nice hard stem, but even so it's sometimes easier to make the hole for it. And the reason I'm using this vegetable, not as my son pointed out as a sacrifice to the vegetarian god, but because these fruits and vegetables are made up of 90% water, so they're like a natural oasis. So you can use this, and this will be 100% biodegradable. It's just held on with twine, no plastic, no wire. So I've now covered the courgette in foliage, and I've also put the gladioli in at either end, simply because they take a little bit of fettling, and I didn't want to spend hours on the video showing you how I make a hole and put those in, but they needed a slightly bigger hole. So now I'm going to move on to the rest of the flowers, and I think you'll agree it looks beautiful just as it is, just with the foliage, so the flowers are just a huge bonus to it all. Another thing to point out, you will have noticed that when I was picking the flowers, it was middle of the morning, and I would never normally cut flowers at that time of day. I was doing it simply for the purposes of this video. But normally, if you're cutting flowers, you want to do it in the late evening or very early morning, basically when the sun isn't on the flowers, because they will be most full of water and most relaxed at those times of the day, early morning or evening. They are quite stressed mid-morning. They have the sun on them fully, and they're more likely to droop. So what I would normally do is I would pick the flowers in the evening, and then I will bring them into here in buckets of water right up to their necks, and I will leave them for about 12 to 24 hours, certainly overnight, so that they can have a really good long drink of water and just relax and take that water up. And that's called conditioning. And it's very simple. It's simply giving the flowers a really good drink, and then they are holding the maximum amount of water so that when they go into arrangements, they are coming at it with a good start. So I did an arrangement the other day. The foliage that's gone into this is eucalyptus. We've got Cornus eglantissima, which is the variegated cornus, and then the pittosporum. But you can use all sorts of foliage for this sort of thing. So if you're doing this as a funeral tribute for somebody who knew their trees or had certain loves of things, I did one last week for a local farmer, and I knew he was actually going to be buried on his own land under an oak tree. So I put lots of oak into the wreath. And the lovely thing is that wreath can be left on the grave until it's really sort of gone past its prime, and then it can just be put straight onto the compost heap. There's no need to take anything off it. There'll be no bows or bejangles on this. It's just the flowers speaking for themselves, looking absolutely beautiful. And herbs, I like to use a lot of herbs in my arrangements, both for weddings and funerals. So I've got some gorgeous pineapple mint here, which again is the variegated type, and smells amazing. And so that's a very pretty thing to add. And it's lovely, particularly with funeral flowers, if there's a lovely whiff of something beautiful and herby and floral as the coffin is being carried in. There are all sorts of different styles of funeral flowers you can get. This one is normally called a casket spray or a coffin spray. I tend to call it a coffin topper, just because I know then in my own mind what I'm talking about, something that's big and is going to go. This is probably about a half size one, but you can do them double size, so they're almost covering the entire coffin. There are also sheaths, which are just an arrangement of flowers and foliage, which are arranged flat in a sort of arch, and those look absolutely beautiful, and they're just laid flat on top of the coffin. And then obviously there's the sort of more traditional wreaths and things like that. But you can go with whatever you want. I have a florist friend who said that her mother thought it was the law that you had to have your name written out in chrysanthemums, and she said, "I can't believe it." She said, "I'm a flower farmer florist, and my mother still thinks that's the case." It's not. You can have whatever you want, and I think having completely natural, organic flowers in a totally natural arrangement says so much about the person that they're being done for. And for their people's love of the planet and looking after it in death as well as life. So here we have the finished item, full of flowers, and I think that would look beautiful on anybody's coffin. You can also do exactly the same method for doing an arrangement at a wedding, for a top table arrangement. All you do there simply is have stuff coming down the front. So you can see we've got a lovely range of flowers in here. We've got the sweet peas, gypsophila, we've got some Perovskia, rosemint agastache, the Gallagher, some echinops, the dahlias, the antirrhinums, and cosmos. And these will all be very happy sitting in that marrow or courgette. And if you give them a nice spray of water, then you'll find that there's enough liquid in there to keep everything alive and happy. I hope you've enjoyed this, and do check out the other videos that are being put up on the Flower Farmers Big Weekend site.